I remember realizing at some point that I didn't really have a life outside of work. I mean, I had a career, I had friends, I had a relationship, but if you had asked me what I like to do for fun, I didn't really have an answer. That was 4 years ago, and it took me breaking just one habit for me to completely change my life. At the time, I was living in Los Angeles, and if you'd asked me what my life looked like, I would have told you it was full. But full and alive are not the same thing. There were really only two things in my days: work and drinking. Alcohol and going out were basically my only hobbies. Whenever I felt bored or restless or frustrated or just sad, I drank. It was the reward for surviving the week, and it was the distraction from the fact that my life felt completely empty. But honestly, it was filling me with so much regret. I would drink to numb my feelings, and then I would wake up at 3 a.m. feeling totally anxious with my heart racing and honestly really ashamed because I had broken another promise to myself to stop. Every time I set a goal to get healthier, to drink less, to be a better friend and a better partner, I would fail. And honestly, this cycle went on and on for years. But in 2022, when I was 33, I guess I had finally had enough of my own BS and just decided to stop. I originally challenged myself to take 1 year off drinking. I'm a very goal-oriented person, so I think framing it as a challenge versus a forever identity made it feel more doable for me. But I have to be honest, in those first few weeks after quitting drinking, I think those were some of the hardest days of my entire life. Every time I would go out with friends, go out to dinner, go for a night out, I just felt so uncomfortable. I didn't know how to be in my own skin. I didn't know how to be around people anymore. And it just made me question everything about my identity, who I was, and how I had been living for so many years. And on nights that I was home, I also just felt like the nights were endless. There was so much time that I didn't know how to fill. When you take away the thing you've been using to cope, you're just left with this giant empty space. And I genuinely had no idea what to do with it. I remember sitting in my apartment every night, not being able to figure out what to do with myself. The way I would describe it is that it felt like I was being reborn, like I was a child trying to figure out how to just be a person in the world for the first time. Everything felt difficult and new and uncomfortable. I was anxious all the time. I felt bored and restless in a way I hadn't let myself feel in years because I'd always had a way to escape it. The only thing I could think to do was go for a walk to help me get out of my head and back into my body. And if I could credit just one thing with getting me through that first year, it was that. Anytime I felt that restless pull, that itch, I just got out of the house, no matter how late it was. I remember sometimes walking literally in the middle of the night or even crying the whole time while I was walking. But something about moving my body just helped me process all the feelings that were starting to come up after years of pushing them away. The walks helped with the restless energy, but I still had these really long evenings to fill. And one thing that I discovered was rom-coms in book form. I basically hadn't read my entire adult life, and so picking up a book was really difficult for me, and I found what really helped was picking a book that was really easy to read, like one that I could really lose myself in for hours. I could finish these books in just a couple of days, and they were really the perfect distraction for times when I really needed it. And then at some point, I decided that I wanted to learn how to draw, and I picked up a book called You Can Draw in 30 Days, which I highly recommend, by the way. Drawing became one of the first things that put me in a flow state, which I had never really experienced before. Hours would pass without me noticing. When I was concentrating on drawing, my brain completely turned off. And it challenged me in ways that I didn't expect. I had to learn to be a beginner again, to let go of perfectionism, to be okay being really bad at something, and that was really hard for me. But it also gave me this incredible sense of satisfaction to see myself improve slowly over time at something and just get better was something I hadn't really experienced in a long time. So I spent that first year just continuing to figure out how to fill the space. I went to workout classes, I consumed everything I could about wellness and healing. through podcasts, books, anything I could find. I started therapy. I began unpacking my childhood and trying to understand what had actually caused me to start drinking when I was 16. And slowly, day by day, without any master plan, I was rebuilding my life around things that actually nourished me. Something I really didn't expect was how my relationship to work started to change. I wasn't working any less, but my work started to feel a lot smaller relative to everything else that was going on in my life. I had so many things that I was doing. I was reading, drawing, baking, working out, that work just felt like a very small part of my day. And time started passing so much more slowly, and my days started feeling a lot longer. I think because I had so many varied and different things going on in my life, it just made it feel like there was so much more going on than there was before. When I was drinking, I was just going to work and then drinking in the evening, and time would pass really fast. But suddenly, because I was doing so much more and there was so much empty space in my day, it just made work feel much smaller. After the first year, I felt so good that I actually extended my no drinking challenge into a second year. And for a while, actually, I thought that maybe I would never drink again. But eventually, I started missing having that outlet available to me every once in a while. So I decided to start drinking again, but this time far more moderately. And I think that was only possible because I took 2 years off to figure out what actually brings me joy. And alcohol just doesn't have that pull over me anymore. It's completely lost its power. But now when I do drink, I notice something. That creative spark, that curiosity, it just sort of flickers out. Time passes more quickly, and suddenly the weekend is gone, and I don't work on any of my hobbies. That feeling makes me sad now. Creativity needs boredom and space and presence, and alcohol just doesn't give you that. It fills in all the space and doesn't really let you live in it. 4 years is a long time to be figuring something out, and I won't pretend that I'm done. I still overthink, I still seek validation, I still have days where the anxiety creeps back in, or the perfectionism, or a wave of something heavy I can't quite name. But lately, something has started to feel different. Lighter, maybe. Like something that was buried is finally starting to surface. I have all of this creative energy that I don't really know what to do with. And for the first time in my life, I feel like I have something to say, something to share. I want to write and I want to create, and honestly, that's why this channel exists. The creative version of me was always here. I just needed to give her enough space to come out. And I think we probably all have that, some version of ourselves that we are ignoring. If you're feeling unfulfilled, maybe just take a second to think about what you might be reaching towards to escape that feeling. And maybe just try to sit with it and see what's underneath. Because that's what I did, and it changed everything. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you later. Bye.